Welcome to the podcast, Everything Self-Love, where we discuss everything self-love and recovery. And today I have a very special guest. You will not believe the guest that is here today. And I ask you to just sit back, kick back, and enjoy the podcast. The special guest today I'd like to introduce you to is myself. My name is Wendell, and I'm the owner and director of this podcast. And I thought it'd be real interesting to answer some of the same questions that I've asked my guests. So, Wendell, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm being silly, I know. But when you're on your own podcast, you can do things like that. Basically, my name is Wendell, and I've been in recovery now for countless of years. To my most recent date is February 14th, 2023. And it's been a long journey to get to finding out who I am and learning to love myself. The podcast was developed by myself through some of the practices that we'll discuss while answering some of the questions that I've asked my guests. Everything Self-Love and Recovery was developed by myself one day during journaling. And as I was writing in my journal, the words came to life on the page, and the Y with a heart and a U came up, and it showed up, and it was kind of like, you love you. And I have an index card around here with the actual date and time that transpired. So I'm also a person that enjoys journaling, and there's a nerve that goes from a fingertip to my brain, and all of the stuff that's running around in my head is fiction until I place it on paper. Once it's on paper, it becomes facts. So self-love to me is really getting in touch with and identifying some of the things that has hindered me from being myself. Now, I know that's no dictionary explanation or definition of it, but that's what it is to me. And once I found this self-love, I was able to transpire and to start showing up and not having my representative show up. Representative meaning that I learned a lot of things in life, a lot of coping mechanisms, a lot of mannerisms, a lot of lies, a lot of maneuvers to get exactly what I want. If you're familiar with the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps of AA and different recovery programs, there's a recovery program now for overeaters and marijuana and alcoholism and narcotics and anything under the sun you can imagine. There's a 12-step program, but most of them, if not all of them, stemmed from the 12 steps of AA, which was written in 1935 and published in 1939. There was about 100 men and women who got together, and they were getting bombarded by calls and everything from other groups that was growing outside of the Akron, Ohio area. And so they developed the 12 steps, and I believe they were divinely written because they have not been changed since 1939 up to here presently. There has been over 2 million people recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, which the Big Book explains it defines it purposely. The Big Book defines the seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I thought I was coming into AA to learn how to drink successfully and or to stop having bad behaviors once I drank. Once I drank, I ended up in places. I broke every rule there was, drinking and driving, and all of the things that most people do thinking is normal because alcohol is legal. And now marijuana is legal. And when I was coming up, marijuana was considered the gateway drug to a lot of other addictions and things in life. But as it becomes legal, and it is a natural plant of the earth. So for me, no drugs, no alcohol, anything since February 14th of 2023. A lot of prayer, meditation, journaling, step work, guidance, shadow work. All of these things have comprised of my daily practices, and I'm getting far, way ahead of myself with some of the questions that I would ask my guests. So a little bit about myself. I am the youngest of four boys. My brother closest to me passed at 3 years old. Wasn't even born. He passed about a month after I was born, basically. And so there's three of us siblings and countless other sisters and brothers through blended marriages and things that my dad decided to do. Some of them bad behaviors and coping mechanisms that I talk about, I learned exactly straight from him. So either way, with a guest being here, being myself, the very first question would be, what has been the most important aspect of my self-love journey in maintaining years of sobriety? As I stated when I opened, I had at one time put together 15 years, 359 days of sobriety. Now, I'm sure you would ask, what would make a person go back to drinking after 15 years or after 30 days or however much time someone might have out there? For me personally, I ended up drinking again because I thought I had arrived. I dove into the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous back on February 2nd of 2000. 4 or 5 years, 4 or 5 meetings a day, business, travel, all kind of things. I ended up going overseas, and most of the sobriety time was overseas. You would fly in and out every 3 quarters or whatever. But the bottom line is, after about 5 years of extensive work in Alcoholics Anonymous, helping other alcoholics and hiring them, working them, I'm a master electrician by trade. I'm a smart individual, 3 college degrees. My drinking and alcoholism and drugging cost me 2 marriages. And I don't blame it on alcohol. I blame it on the behaviors that I partaked, or the behaviors after I drank or while drinking, or if I didn't get what I wanted. See, they talk about King Baby, I want what I want when I want it. And these are all terms through several treatment centers, several counseling sessions, and all of these things that I've been through have provided me a basis for being able to present and to answer questions and to ask questions in the recovery field. I also deal with trauma and a lot of other things that will probably come out in these questions. But what has been the most important aspect of my self-love journey in maintaining sobriety, and it's basically the truth, telling the truth of the 12 steps, allow me an opportunity to identify things that I'm resentful for. It allows me the benefit to address those things I'm resentful for, and then to look at the things that I've caused harm, to make a restitution and ask for forgiveness, things of those natures. So just working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and being here on a regular basis, learning to love myself. I thought, and the book says I'm selfish, self-centered. And so once I did come into recovery, now I got to put AA first, and people who call me and people I call and all of those things. I have to be there. And so was I selfish over here when I was out drinking and driving and doing all the things I was doing? Or am I selfish by maintaining a program of recovery? Was it the chicken or the egg that came first? I know for me, there's some certain things that I need to do on a regular basis. And if I don't do them, my happiness will be precarious. My sobriety will be precarious, and of happiness, I will have none. Again, you'll hear me quote a lot of things in the book. I knew the book inside and out after 15 some odd years, and that did not keep me out of bars. That did not keep me from doing the things that I did. quoting the book and having knowledge. Knowledge unapplied is just knowledge. So one of the second questions I've asked is, how has your recovery journey influenced your understanding and practice of self-love? Understanding and practice of self-love is doing the things that I need to do regularly on a daily basis. Right now, my routine for the last 500 plus days have been prayer and meditation in the morning, reading some type of positive material, whether it's the Mastermind, or I have several books around here that I read regularly. 15, 20 minutes journaling, and then I jump on to a 6 a.m. Zoom meeting, then a 7:20 Zoom meeting, and I'm usually listening while I'm trying to get my day started at the job, get out on the job, and that's how my day starts off. So understanding the practice of self-love is maintaining a daily practice of getting in touch with myself. Prayer and meditation is very important to me. Some of the strategies and tools that I found most effective in navigating life's challenges while staying sober is the pause. Pause when agitated. I used to just fly off the handle and answer anything, not really listening to what someone had to say, whether it was my mate or at the job or anything. I was the individual that could finish your sentence before you could finish it. I could finish your question before you could finish it. And these were all techniques and coping mechanisms that I learned through trying to protect my little feelings and hold on to what I thought would be taken from me. Or at some point in the 12 steps, we recognize that there's always something threatened, whether it's selfishness, whether it's finances, whether it's, I can't think of the word, but all of these things that felt like an attack on me was really not an attack. And once I broke it all down and looked into it, it really came to life for me. My perspective on living life on life terms evolved through this journey has been amazing. There's a page in the big book that says, page 417 says that acceptance is the key to all my problems. No matter what's going on in my life, when I'm disturbed, I find some place, person, or thing that has disturbed me or haven't provided for me what I think I should get. I mentioned King Baby earlier. I want what I want when I want it. And when I'm disturbed, it's something, someplace, or something that has affected what I thought I was supposed to get or deserved. And I have a friend that says, if I got what I deserved, I would not be sitting here talking to you. I would be a babbling idiot or locked up or dead or dying of some disease. And all of these things prayerfully will not trigger anyone, but these are the things that was taught to me from someone called a sponsor going through the 12 steps. That what I deserve to get and what I get today is only being from the power of a greater power than myself, from the grace of God, creator of the universe. And a lot of people have trouble with the word God when they come into the program. That was not my case because I grew up in a Christian home. My mom loved me. She loves the Lord. She loves everything about the Bible and everything. And for some reason, the 10 Commandments are for Christians and the 12 steps are for people who didn't get the first 10 right. Now I'm trying to be facetious, but that's the way my life been, always cracking a joke or trying to get out of my feelings, whatever those feelings was. Somewhere around the age of 8, I was inappropriately touched, and that feeling was so elusive that I started nurturing it and wanting to protect it and keep it and not tell anyone. And all of these things continued to allow me to grow in ways that I wasn't supposed to grow. I always sought that feeling. I always sought different things outside of myself to make me feel good. So this is tougher than I thought, answering my own questions. Can I share a specific moment or experience that tested my self-love and sobriety and how I overcame it. That would be, I didn't really think about that question. I don't remember any specific thing that has tested my sobriety. Once I gained the knowledge of self-love, and once I gained the shadow work and the processes of my daily ritual now through prayer and meditation, I really don't allow anything to get to me. Not that I'm not human or not that I don't have any feelings. I just haven't found it necessary because I don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. Again, I'm an individual that drank to oblivion. I drank from the time I got off work till the time of lunch. Sometimes the next day, I would carry alcohol in my coffee that morning to get rid of the jitters. Now, this was a long time ago. For anybody that's watching from my job, I no longer do that. And yes, I am still full-time employed. I produce podcasts, the You Love You, Everything Self-Love Recovery is a product to try to give back to the community, to try to explain and to help others share their experience, strength, and hope with their self-love journey. It took a lot to get here. It took me 59 years to realize that God placed in me everything that I'm supposed to have in me to be a productive member of society. Somewhere along the line, that got knocked off kilter, and I ended up going down the road of self-satisfaction and self-gratification at any and every cost, no matter who I hurt, whose toes I stepped on, or whatever. I was going to get what I wanted to get. And that was a developed behavior. It was a coping mechanism to get me and earn me a seat right there in Alcoholics Anonymous. That feeling that was so elusive, and then the shadow work and coming in and working on myself daily. I still journal daily, every morning, and sometimes in the evening. When there's a problem or something running around in my head, I take to a piece of paper, because I always looked outside of myself for people to explain to me what I should be doing. I would ask for guidance from sponsors, people I'm drinking with, from, wherever life took me, I went. And I was saying that was my representative, and not really everything Wendell wanted to do. I didn't have the confidence, although I had plenty of knowledge. I didn't have the personal confidence or the personal self-love to do some of the things that normal people do in life, like have plans and organize their lives and don't drink and drive, and all of these things that knocked me off kilter. I do not blame childhood trauma for my alcoholism. All I know is some things happen, and I developed coping mechanisms, and now I'm here recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And if you ever go to an AA meeting, and you'll find all types of people. It says we're people that would not normally mix, because we have lawyers, doctors, master electricians, plumbers, business people, nurses, you name it. Any person from across the board. It's not all construction trash or construction workers, or there's prominent business people, people that work on Wall Street. This disease affects any and everybody, whether you are the alcoholic or whether you're dealing with an alcoholic. This disease affects individuals totally in a different way. I referenced the big book earlier, and the doctor's opinion, the very first chapter after the first forewords. The book has been reprinted 4 times. There's a 5th edition coming out for natural lay people, the conversation natural lay people, because the individual that wrote the big book, Bill Wilson and Bill Wilson and a few other people, had high-polluting positions. They were Wall Street people. They were people who talked, lawyers, doctors, and they talked the lingo. Pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. That's what I suffered from. There was times that I drank. I didn't want to drink anymore. And they say you're at a jumping off point. Either you're going to continue on and suffer this alcoholic death, or you're going to do something about it and try to get recovery. And hopefully, some people try to get help. A lot of people run into all kind of troubles in Alcoholics Anonymous. And again, there's all kind of different people here. The book talks about from the sturge to the captain's table that we are people who normally would not mix. And we're like passengers on the ocean liner that once it crashed, we all celebrate being saved. But there was all types of different walks of people. So prioritizing self-care and self-love in my daily life, as I mentioned earlier, is strictly prayer, meditation, journaling, reading, and helping another alcoholic. The 12th step is having had a spiritual awakening. As the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to the alcoholic who still suffers and to practice these principles in all our affairs. There's a principle behind each step, and there are steps designed to get me back in touch with the individual I should have been a long time ago. Either way, I'm loving life today. I'm happy that I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And I was going somewhere with the doctor's opinion. The doctor's opinion says that we suffer from a threefold disease. It's a spiritual, physical, and mental disease. And once we get rid of the physical, we still have to straighten out the spiritual and physical. And so the book talks about God, and we have to find a power greater than ourselves and all of these things. And so when I came in Alcoholics Anonymous this last time, the book read God and spirituality. The third step talks about turn my will and my life over to a care of God that I understand. And I misquoted that as well, but it's a God of my own understanding. The religion that I grew up with, that God didn't come down and knock the alcohol out of my hands and all the other drugs that I partook of while drinking and things that I've done. And that God didn't really do me. Now, I'm not saying that God failed me. I'm just saying that I didn't make proper use of that particular religion. And I always reverted back to that religious mindset. Well, in Alcoholics Anonymous, I found a spiritual being, a creator, a loving God that is not going to give me free will and then tell me I'm going to hell if I break one of his commandments. I don't believe in that anymore. And that's through a lot of growth. It took a long time for me to get to that point. And I'll even tell you the story that got me there. A friend of mine had introduced me to the podcast, Take Back Your Mind, and an individual named Michael Beckwith, which has been instrumental in my recovery and my discovery of a spiritual place in my life. I was listening to his podcast one day and he talked about the acorn having a mighty oak in it. God had placed everything in the acorn it needed to be a mighty oak. And I got to thinking about that. I was like, this is, I grew up around oak trees and I know what an oak tree looked like. And an oak tree stands for so many different things and so many different religions, and it's a symbol of strength. It's a symbol of stability. The oak tree, if you look it up, it has quite a few religious meanings and spiritual meanings for different groups of people. But when you think about an acorn the size of a dime having a mighty oak in it, and that something in this universe put an oak tree in that, it just needed the right environment. That leveled the playing field for me. And I know you might say that's petty, but that's my experience. That's what I experienced. And that's when the light went off in my head that, okay, I got people that's telling me that I'm supposed to bow down and turn the other cheek, and that I'm supposed to wait my whole life for this great heaven to appear or me to get there or end up in a lake of fire for all the things I've done. And I just couldn't never, it started not working for me. This lack of a better term. It just started not working for me. And hearing Michael Beckwith talk about spirituality and heaven right here on earth and my mindset, and I get what I think. And if you really look back on your life, if you think it's going to be a bad day, I guarantee you it's probably going to be a bad day. And so I'm not of the belief anymore that bad things happen. I think there's not even bad things. I think there's opportunities for improvement. And so a lot of things have changed in my life. And I'm just, I love life today. I really do. A lot of good things have happened. A lot of bad things in my past has happened. I've asked and made restitution for most of them. And those that I haven't, I'm still in the process of asking for forgiveness for some of the behaviors I did while under the influence, and sometimes stone cold crazy. So I got off way on a tangent, but the specific moment, I still don't know when my sobriety has been tested as of yet. I'm sure it will come, or it might have came and I just dealt with it immediately, because we're also taught that I clear away the wreckage of my present. So I've done the 12 steps. I've admitted that I was powerless over alcohol, that my life is unmanageable. I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And in the 12, there's another book that came out about 15 years after the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in the 12 and 12, they say, yes, you're insane. The second, if I continue to do the things I've done, you would probably consider me insane. And I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia before. Fortunately, I came out of that. But either way, so I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. And I need these insane people to help me. And then made a decision to turn my will and my life over to a care of God as I understand it. The fourth step is made a list of all people, all persons I had harmed, and made, oh, that's the wrong step. Anyway, took an inventory, a moral inventory of myself. And the book talks about most people won't take a moral inventory of their self. And once I took that moral inventory, I had to share that. The fifth step says, admit it to God, to another human being, the exact nature of my wrong. So I took an inventory. I wrote down all of the things that I'd done wrong, or that I felt people had wronged me, or institutions or places I was mad at. And all of those things was wrote out, and then I discussed it. And it talks about you can discuss it with a priest, or I've done it with an individual. So that individual learned my patterns. And later on in the steps, he could remind me of some of the things on my fourth step and say, you tried that before. That might not be a good idea. Because sometimes we get in the heat of things and don't really realize what we're saying or what we're about to do until it's too late. So I'm grateful for the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then in what ways has my childhood trauma played a role in my recovery? And it was the thing that I identified through working the 12 steps, working with the sponsor, and then pointing out some of the things that I was mad at and some of the things I was resentful for and angry about, and all of these things. It came out that I had blocked a lot of my childhood off, and through journaling and shadow work, I found a lot of that stuff and was able to expose it. And it came to life for me. So the trauma in my life didn't cause me to be an alcoholic, but it caused me to have bad behaviors. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to coin that one. But actually, that trauma alone, and I don't make light of anybody's trauma, trust me. I've learned to live through and to deal with the trauma that I suffered. And it's amazing the coping mechanisms, the lying, the cheating, the stealing of time and of people's emotions and things that I did just to get what I wanted. And so the 12 steps and that trauma forced me into a position of having to write. I took a program with a lady that you might know, Ayana Van Zant, and it was a 6-week spiritual warrior training course. And for me, it worked. I guess I was in the right mindset or whatever. It took me 6 months to do the 6 weeks program, but it was intensive writing, reading materials, affirmations, journaling in the morning, journaling at night, tracking the things that I've done and said and people I've harmed. Just like the 12 steps, when I get up to 9, 10, 11, and 12, I'll talk more about, correcting things on the spot. So childhood trauma played a large role in my life because it forced me to finally take a look at myself. I got beat into a sense of reasonableness. I didn't give the gift of desperation or any of those things. I come in here beat down, and I did not want to feel or do any of the things I was doing prior to that. And they told me what I had to do. So between that, sharing with my sponsor, looking for some other programs to help me, that journaling course, and the time that I spent here in this apartment to myself, working on myself, identifying and learning who I really am, really, 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 really helped me recognize and fall in love. And that's where self-love comes from now. You spend enough time with yourself, you're either going to like yourself or hate yourself. And I hope it's the first part, like yourself, because today I do love myself, and I'm grateful for all the things that have happened. People who've done the things, I was able to forgive them. Things that I've done, I've asked for forgiveness. And it's just a beautiful thing. Recovery is a beautiful thing. If you haven't tried it, I ask you, if you need trauma, if you need to talk to someone, I'm available. I am not a licensed therapist, but I guarantee you, I've been through any and everything that a lot of people have been through. And identifying and journaling and working them out, talking them out, has worked for me. Let's see. Advice I would give to others who are struggling with maintaining their sobriety while practicing self-love. I would say put down the hammer and pick up a feather. Every time, self-talk is one of the deadliest things in our lives today. This thing between my ears has the power to kill me on a regular basis. And self-negative talk or self-positive talk, it can be used either way. But I believe I get what I focus on. And if someone is struggling, I would say get closer to the program, work diligently, work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous 4 and 5, admit it to God, to another human being, the exact nature of my wrongs. 6, ask God to remove my shortcomings. 7, humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings. Those two work hand in hand. And then 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and made direct amends to them whenever possible, except when to injure them, it would injure them or others. That's a huge step. Well, we look at our past and we look at what made us angry. Why was my coping mechanisms here? Why did I lie, steal, cheat just to get what I wanted, or to drink and drive when I knew it was injurious, or being promiscuous on multiple occasions, not knowing what I really wanted in life? All of these things are results of childhood trauma, of alcoholism. I started drinking soon after, 8 or 9 years old. I bought alcohol from my dad from the back door. My friend smoked weed and his dad let him smoke weed. We was a perfect match. And coming up through junior high and high school, I drank and smoked regularly. I loved the roller skate. I would go roller skating, blast it. But it was the only place that I could be me. Could nobody touch me. I was one of the best roller skaters. I purposely set out to be the best on a pair of roller skates that I could possibly be. And it wasn't so much to be the best, but it was the only escape I had. And I could get on a pair of skates and Nights Over Egypt come on, or what's the other one? Wine Light, Mr. Magic. All of these songs that I grew up on skating was an escape for me, to get out of myself, to get away from the drama of life, to get away from all the things that caused me some kind of discomfort. And skating was my escape early on in life, along with drinking and drugging was a big escape for me. And to this day, I still love the roller skating. I haven't been on a pair of roller skates since I came into recovery this time, because skating reminds me a lot of drinking and drugging. Now, I know I could probably skate sober and things of that nature, but when you skate, wow, your whole life, yeah, that's amazing. I just had a flashback of some of the times skating and some of the times that I would barely be able to walk, but I could get on a pair of roller skates and just enjoy life. I'd come out of there wet down to my knees. So roller skating was a big escape for me. Now prayer and meditation and journaling is not an escape, but it's a way to deal with some of those emotions that I had no clue on how to deal with. So hopefully you got something out of that. It's humbling to me, and I will get on a pair of roller skates again, I'm sure. It's just, yeah, life has taken me in different avenues and different purposes and things of that nature. But yes, I do love the roller skating. Can't say enough about roller skating. Anyway, how has the concept of forgiveness, both of oneself and others, been instrumental in my journey of self-love and recovery? Man, that concept of forgiveness, it wasn't difficult for me. It really wasn't. Once I identified and knew what it was, I had to forgive myself. I had to acknowledge. And I also, fortunately, in this process, developed a book called 4 Powerful Strategies to Heal from Trauma. It will be released soon on Amazon and also on Kindle. It's an excellent beginning too, and the process I took to discover a blueprint to more peace and happiness by discovering, discarding, and dealing with childhood trauma. Try to say that all in one breath with a smile on your face. Either way, I'll put a link for it. It's called Members at youloveyoullc.com. You can grab a book there. That one's on my personal website, but I went on and decided to publish it and become a publishing author. Who does it? The things that I've done in life, places I've been, and for me to even say that I'm soon to be a published author just blows my mind. Again, I've done things. I've been face down on the ground with a 9mm to the back of my head with an individual, a homeowner. I was out doing my thing, drunk, tired, pulled over on his property. And he literally put a 9mm to the back of my head and said, if you move, I'm going to shoot you. He's on the phone with 911 saying, if y'all don't get here soon, I got this guy. He didn't use guy. He used some other words. And if he moves, I'm going to shoot him. I got the perfect right. He's on my property. And he would turn and say, don't move, MF, don't move. Now I know for a fact that there's a power greater than myself that caused that man not to shoot me. And it wasn't the goodness of me saying, please, please, please don't shoot me. So for me to go from there to being here, doing a podcast, expressing my previous life so others can be free to understand that things that we go through, things that we do, and everything that has happened to me in life, unfortunately, I say happened for a reason. The big book talks about acceptance is the key. I have to accept whatever happened and then live to either forgive or be forgiven. So forgiveness is a key step in I put forgiveness like this of others. And every time, and a friend of mine, my sponsor way back in 2000 and 2003, 4, used to show me life lessons in recovery. It's one thing to tell somebody something, but it's another thing for you to see it happening on a daily basis. And this guy, I could call him right now if something was wrong, and I truly believe that he would find a way to help me. He might send somebody from AA, or I doubt if he would drive up here. It's about 23 hours, but I don't know. I explained my first sponsor to someone like, that's the closest thing to Jesus I've ever seen. And let me qualify that. I've seen him on the firing lines. I've seen him go to neighborhoods where he used to rob, jack, steal, or do the same things that I'm talking about doing, and go back and help somebody. Somebody called for help, that man drops whatever it is. And most Alcoholics Anonymous individuals will do that. But I've seen it in action early on. And that's what helped the beginning of my recovery journey. Some kind of way I got away from that daily helping of others and things of that nature. And I decided that it was okay for me to drink again. It took me from 2016, January 29th of 2016 to February 13th to admit that I really got a problem. February 14th, I came back in the program and I have not looked back. I got busy with journaling and writing and all of those things. So anyone struggling with childhood trauma, the disease of addiction, alcoholism, just plain outright dumb thinking. I used to think that as well. I think, but I'm smart enough. Why can't I quit? I know, I'm strong enough. This, for some reason, has nothing to do with strength, has nothing to do with intelligence. The disease of alcoholism is a disease. It's a chronic disease. People die from alcoholism. People who crash cars and run into poles, and they don't wake up and say, I think this is what I want to do today. An addict doesn't wake up and say, I want to smoke crack until I blow my brains out today. And so I don't know what the creator or who the creator picks and chooses to stay sober and picks and chooses who doesn't stay sober. And I think that has a lot to do with the individual and the mentality. And I know I have friends that says, man, you ain't drinking so long, man. Can't you have one? Are you not going to drink for the rest of your life? And today I don't have to not drink for the rest of my life. I have to not drink today because I have a daily reprieve from the mental state, because the physical is gone. What makes a person that knows that if I drink, I'm going to end up drinking and driving, and I'm going to end up somewhere hurting somebody or myself? What person picks that drink up? Again, it has to be a spiritual and mental situation that causes the issue. So either way, I was checking the time. Looks like I'm running over a little bit. The concept of forgiveness is a deep concept. And in order to forgive, I have to first acknowledge whether that I need forgiveness or they need forgiveness. However it is, I have to acknowledge it. And then I can start the process of forgiveness. Forgiveness for me is like when I owe you $1 and you ask me for it. I'm like, man, it's a damn dollar. Why you asking me for $1, man? Get on out of here. But let you owe me $1? Oh, I'm knocking down the door. I'm like, where my dollar at? And so when I put that in concept, when I put that out there as that, I have to let the other person make it. So forgiveness was not difficult for me. And I'm praying that forgiveness of the wrongs I've done is not difficult for others, as long as I stay on the road of straight and narrow. So I said all of that to say it's not strength, it's not smarts, it's none of those things. It's a combination of getting honest with oneself and staying honest. What normal people do. Normal people don't walk around and lie, steal, cheat. Alcoholics will hide, lie, steal, cheat. And you say, well, he'd do it for them. Why wouldn't he? Loves them. Why don't he? That's the great obsession of every alcoholic. The book talks about the great obsession. It's to drink like normal people. Today, I don't even have the desire to drink. And I come back and forth to Alcoholics Anonymous on a regular basis, both to maintain my sanity and also to help the individual that comes in that was beat downtrodden like me, couldn't understand why they couldn't stop drinking. And so when the hands of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am responsible. And so I love going to meetings. People say, oh, I got to go to this Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And, oh, they're going to do this, that, and the other. And what I found out, it's a lot of good people that has just abused alcoholism and crossed the line of addiction or alcoholism. And there's no going back. We always say, once a pickle, always a pickle. You cannot go back to be a cucumber. Either way, what does the phrase "you love you" mean to you in the context of sobriety and self-love journey? Man, I try to explain that all the time. Not really all the time, but I've tried to explain that several times. And if you've never been to a place of self-hate, you would never understand a place of self-love, I don't think. And I probably misquoted that. Knowing what I know about myself today and knowing that I was a representative. If you said husband, I said, okay, I know what a husband's supposed to do. I know I got a checklist. As long as I do this, and this, I can go over here and do whatever the hell I want to do, to hell with what you say or anything of those natures. And I went through life like that. And I've apologized, and I'll apologize right here on camera that, it was a different individual then. Self-love to me today is I've received the gift of identification and identifying myself and understanding myself today. I've exposed all the deep, dark crannies, all the little deep, dark secrets. I had to tell one other individual, and a loving God, one that didn't judge me, one that gave me life and peace and joy and abundance and all of these things that I've received. If I'd have came to AA and decided or thought that if I had to make a list of what I was going to get out of AA, I would have cut myself short, because in Alcoholics Anonymous, getting identified and identifying myself as an alcoholic and working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, I talked about 6 and 7 and then 8, made direct amends to people we harmed whenever it would not hurt them or ourselves. 9, and then 10, 11, and 12 are maintenance steps. It even talks about on awakening, we ask God to guide our path through the day. We correct any errors that we made through that day. If I've crossed you during the day, we have a program in the 10th step that asks us to journal through the day. Where was we wrong? Where did we offend anyone? And we go and try to make that correct immediately. I try to do it on the spot. Sometimes my attitude get away from me. Sometimes I get caught up in my own feelings. I am not perfect by no means. And when I do, when I think about it at the end of the day, or whenever I think about it, I go right back. I'll tell a funny story right quick. I love to drink coffee. Sometimes I drink mushroom coffee, and sometimes I drink regular coffee. It does not matter, but I ran out of cream, and I love French vanilla cream. So I left out of here going to work. I was like, man, I ain't got no cream. So I stopped at a gas station. This is what my thinking tells me sometimes. It is, whew. Anyway, so I go into the gas station and I look in the cabinets, I believe, and they didn't have, no, I went in there to just take some of the creamer, but they didn't, some kind of way they had cream on the counter. So I was like, hey man, I want to pay for these few little things. And he wouldn't pay for it. He wouldn't let me buy them. He says, they're not for sale. They go with the coffee. Well, I didn't need coffee. I'd already had my own coffee. But longer the story short, I looked at him. I had 3 or 4 of the creams in my hand, and I just left out. And he'd come out hollering behind me, hey, you can't take that, And I went to work. I got to work, and I'm sitting here trying to drink my coffee. I can't enjoy my coffee because I done stole this cream, and that's out of character for me to even do anything of that nature. If that man would have told me that they were $1 a piece, I'd have told him, no, I'm not paying you $1 a piece, and I'd have left anyway. Now, the right thing would have been to buy a cup of coffee, throw the coffee out, and take the cream. I didn't do that. I just took the cream and left. By the time I got off work, it had ate at my gut so much that I stopped back by the store. Fortunately, the guy was there. I approached him. I said, look, man, I apologize for taking the cream. That is normally not me. And I'm laughing now because I can't believe that I've done something like that. But that's the I want what I want when I want it mentality that I talk about, the alcoholic thinking or just bad behavior or whatever I can blame it on. But I apologized to him. I bought a cup of coffee. I didn't get the cup of coffee, and I paid for a cup of coffee. And that would have been so easy to do that morning, but all I wanted was some cream, and I didn't care how I was going to get it. So those kind of things helps me to correct my behaviors. And if not, it just eat at me. And those resentments or those little pebbles in my shoe, as I call them, I'll eventually drink behind that. I'm convinced of that. I was trying to stay sober since 1991. Take that in. 1991. I got sober, went back out. Got sober, went back out. Came back in, got a program, studied for a good year and a half. Fortunately, the grace of God and power greater than myself, and Buddha, Jesus, creator of the universe, Krishna, whatever God there is that you serve out there, find him. You must find him and find out what energizes and protects you. But either way, went through a month and a half, or a year and a half of training, passed my master electrician's exam, one of the youngest black master electricians in the city of Houston at the time. Started my own business, 4 years, ended up drinking again. Went out, came back in. That's when I met my sponsor, stayed sober for 15 years plus. Decided that I had arrived, drank again. And from 2016 to 2023, I would put together a couple of months. I would drink, try controlled drinking. Eventually, I would go back to my drug of choice. And that led me to real pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. And that's what brought me back into the program. I went through a 28-day detox, went through a 28-day PHP. I went to a 3-quarter house. I went to another 3-quarter house to get me closer to work. Finally purchased or got an apartment. And that's where my journey of self-love began. I know the question did not ask all of that, but that's where self-love and my journey and you love you and all of that stuff comes all the way around. Since in recovery, my life has turned 100%. I'm healthier. I show up for work straight and ready to do the job. I've since fallen in love with myself and another. And that's the most beautiful thing it is, to be in love and to love yourself. Wow. That's amazing. And a whole lot of other good things have happened to me in my life. So very last closing remarks or whatever is just to say that people don't wake up to be alcoholics. People don't wake up to be addicted or homeless. Let the government or some other people say they can say, oh, they're just lazy or this, that, or the other. But I know alcoholism runs rampant in a lot of people's lives. I didn't discuss my father's alcoholism. I didn't discuss anybody. I was just more concerned with seeing what it felt like to be on the other side of the questions. And I'm so glad you tuned in. This has been an experience for myself to discuss everything self-love and recovery. I hope and pray that if you do have a problem with trauma or alcoholism or addiction or bad behaviors or divorce or whatever the ailments are in your life, that you find someone or a piece of paper that you can write it down on and start journaling. Journaling has been a heaven sent for me. Finding a power greater than myself, an all-loving God that doesn't judge me. It doesn't mean I can go down the street and shoot somebody and he's not gonna. And I still don't think God gets back at me for anything. I really don't. I think the universe, you get what you get. You get what you give out. And that's one thing I pray I've always been, was a giving, a loving, and giving individual. Although selfish and self-centered is the root of my problem. So yes, I admit I've been a liar, cheater, stealer of time, stealer of everything. And I always worked. My dad always taught me to work hard, but that could be a whole nother story. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for about an hour. You've been listening to and watching the podcast, Everything Self-Love and Recovery. I'm the host, Wendell Holmes, and it's been a great experience. Click like, subscribe to the channel, share, comment, send it with someone. Send it to someone. I'll put all my information in the chat. If you'd like to be a speaker, go to speaker.youloveyoullc.com or email me at wendell@youloveyoullc.com. If you'd like to get more information, if I can come out and speak, if you want to hear my story or have me talk to youngsters or a group of people, I have several platforms and they'll all be in there. youloveyoullc.com. Helpamofo.com was a development through a sponsor telling me when I got finished with my steps to go help somebody. And so I have a clothing line. It'll be here in the listing. And it's all to pay it forward, to pay it back. Help them move forward is a global movement to pay it forward through deliberate acts of kindness. And I'm still developing, and it's been around for about 6 months, but working a full-time job and trying to do all of this other stuff, just life be life. And I'm a happy individual today. I am me. I am truly me, 100% me. And that's a long time coming. So thank you once again. Everything self-love and recovery. Peace.